Leo, stop chasing luck. Because starting today, it's chasing you. Hello, radiant souls of the Leo Zodiac. Welcome back to Eternal Mindfulness, your sacred space for cosmic insight, tarot wisdom, and spiritual empowerment. This is your deep horoscope reading for May 23rd, and trust me, you're not here by accident. If you're watching this, it means the universe has nudged you, maybe quietly, maybe dramatically, to tune into something that's meant for your soul at this very moment. This is not just a forecast. It's a call. A doorway. A shift in your path that begins now. So let me ask you. What do you believe brought you here today? A recurring number? A dream that lingered? A restless feeling you couldn't shake? Whatever it was, know this, May 23rd is not just another day. It's a cosmic intersection, and Leo, you're standing right in the center of it. With your ruler, the Sun, lighting up your 11th house in Gemini, and expansive Jupiter stirring your deeper emotional waters, this moment is overflowing with financial potential, healing energy, and powerful manifestations. The stars are aligned in a rare harmony to give you back what you once thought was lost. But not as it was, as something stronger, more aligned, and more worthy of you. Because what fell apart? It wasn't punishment. It was preparation. And Leo, I don't just want to tell you what's coming, I want to remind you that you have the power to co-create it. This isn't a passive reading. This is a permission slip from the universe for you to reclaim your power, your voice, and your abundance. But before we dive in, let me take a moment to say this from my heart. Thank you. Thank you for being here, for every like, every comment, every moment you share with the Eternal Mindfulness family. Your presence helps this community grow into a place where healing, truth, and transformation can actually happen. It allows us to bring these messages of light to the people who truly need them. And you? You're one of those people. So don't scroll away just yet, because what I'm about to share with you today could change the way you view your past and how you manifest your future. The astrology of this week is incredibly rare. The tarot messages are powerful. And the energetic shifts you're experiencing? They're not random. They're divine. And Leo, if your heart has been heavy, your money has been tight, or your relationship strained, know that something massive is finally shifting. So tell me in the comments. What's the sign that brought you here? Is it 1111? A dream? A strange gut feeling? Share it, because saying it out loud affirms your alignment with the divine flow. And remember, Radiant Leo, this video is not just something to watch. It's something to experience. To claim. To live. Let's go deeper. As we move into the sacred alignment of May 23rd, the sky above whispers a quiet but powerful invitation to you, dear Leo. This moment is not simply another passage of time. It is a shift, a soft opening, a window into something greater that has been waiting for you to notice it. After what you've already opened your heart to in the beginning of this reading, you're now ready to understand the deeper currents that have been gently shaping your path, often beneath your awareness, but always in your favor. Right now, your ruling force, the Sun, is shining through Gemini, activating your 11th house. This is the area of the sky that governs your larger social dreams, the collective circles that help you rise, and the types of blessings that aren't earned through pure effort, but through resonance, timing, and openness. It's no longer about proving yourself. It's about aligning with the right people and allowing new forms of support to reach you. You don't have to push. You only need to allow. Meanwhile, expansive Jupiter rests in your 8th house, stirring the deep waters of transformation and shared resources. This is not a planet that acts with urgency. It magnifies slowly, steadily, until the abundance becomes undeniable. This placement suggests that gifts may arrive not because you chased them, but because something in you has already let go. There is a beauty to this kind of receiving. It feels like when you stop searching for the answer, and it finds you instead. It's the moment after release, when the river finally brings something back to the shore. In this space of quiet readiness, Venus finds herself in a rare conversation with Uranus, an aspect that promises the unexpected. And yet, it's not truly a surprise when it comes. Somewhere deep in your intuition, you sense that something is about to break free. This could be an unexpected message from someone who once mattered deeply to you, a financial gift out of nowhere, or a rush of clarity about your next bold move. Whatever it is, it will arrive suddenly, but feel strangely meant. But even as you stand in this field of possibility, Mars, the planet of action and impulse, is clashing with the full moon's reflective light. This is where the energy becomes more complex. It asks for your discernment. Fire, when wielded gently, can be a beacon, a hearth, a warm invitation. But when left unchecked, it can scorch what it's meant to illuminate. You may feel pulled toward confrontation or intense expression right now, especially in close relationships. But pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, is this true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Not every fire needs to roar. Sometimes the strongest choice is the softest one. This is why May 23rd isn't just about manifestation. It's about realignment. You're not being asked to get more, you're being invited to become more aware. To move with grace, not force. To see that wealth is not only about money, but about capacity. Capacity to feel, to give, to receive without fear. It is in stillness that we come into contact with our greatest clarity. It is in gentleness that we discover the power we thought we had to earn. If you've been asking for a sign to start over, to invest in yourself, or to forgive someone who wounded you deeply, this is it. Not because the stars control you, but because they reflect what's already stirring inside you. And as above, so within. This is your invitation to begin again, not with noise, but with intention. Let today be the day you stop reacting and start listening. The answers aren't hiding. They're already glowing in the spaces you've been too busy to notice. So look. Feel. Let it in. And now, as we continue moving deeper into the guidance of this moment, the first card drawn, the Wheel of Fortune, arrives not as a prediction, but as a mirror. A mirror that reflects the movement already beginning within you, a shift that perhaps you've sensed quietly in recent days. This card does not speak to fate as something static or predetermined, but rather as a living cycle, one that you are no longer watching from the outside, but finally stepping into with awareness. When the wheel appears, especially for Leo, it asks, are you ready to receive what has always been yours, but had to wait until you were truly ready to hold it? This is not simply about luck. This is about readiness. The kind of readiness that arises when you've done the inner work, released the need to force outcomes, learned to breathe when you would have fought, and softened when you could have resisted. The wheel moves in cycles. We all experience times of contraction and times of expansion. But when we meet those turning points with presence, they become more than random events, they become initiations. You're not just spinning on the wheel anymore, you're becoming one with the movement. That's the difference. That's the shift. And what's unfolding for you now, Leo, is a cycle of expansion, of return, of sudden yet earned opportunity. The kind that doesn't always look dramatic from the outside, but feels sacredly aligned on the inside. It might be financial, yes. The appearance of a long-awaited sum, an unexpected offer, or a moment of abundance so natural it almost slips past you. But beneath the surface of that money is something even greater, a message of recognition. This card paired with the Ten of Pentacles is especially potent. Because while the wheel brings movement, the Ten grounds it. Together, they don't just indicate gain, they indicate legacy. This isn't a fleeting win. It's a foundation. One you've built not just for yourself, but for your family, your chosen people, your future self. These energies speak to the kind of prosperity that extends beyond wealth. It becomes support, connection, safety, generosity. This is the moment where everything you once thought was just surviving begins to shift into something called thriving. But here's what matters most. This potential only becomes power through action. You're being asked to trust your intuition, to listen to that quiet nudge that says, apply now. Speak up. Say yes. That whisper, often so soft you could miss it, is your internal compass tuning into the wheel's rotation. When you act from alignment, the wheel turns with you, not against you. There is a principle that teaches us, when the conditions are ripe and the mind is still, the fruit falls naturally from the tree. You do not shake the branch. You wait with stillness and clarity, then act when it's time. And Leo, now is the time. Write it. Say it. Breathe it. Money comes to me. Repeat it not as a wish, but as a truth that your body is finally ready to remember. Words, when carried by belief and spoken with presence, are not just sounds, they are frequency. And the frequency of trust is one of the most magnetic energies you can carry into the world right now. Let this not be about hoping you get lucky. Let it be about remembering that you are already part of the abundance you seek. You are not on the outside looking in. You are in the center. The wheel is turning. All you have to do is move with it. As we flow from the energy of opportunity into the more intimate territory of the heart, the presence of the Five of Cups asks you to pause and truly feel what still lingers beneath your surface. This card is not here to dwell in sorrow but to acknowledge it, to invite you to be honest with what's been left unspoken, unreleased, or quietly carried for too long. Sometimes the greatest weight is not what we've lost, but the silence we've kept around it. You might find yourself missing someone right now, an old friend, a past partner, or even a version of yourself that once felt freer, softer, more open. There's nothing weak about longing. In fact, longing can be one of the most sacred forms of remembering. It reminds you that something once mattered enough to leave an imprint. But the Five of Cups also teaches us that while looking back is natural, staying there too long can cloud your vision of what's still possible. That's why the appearance of the Six of Pentacles is so meaningful here. It's a balancing energy, an offering of reciprocity, of repair, of gentle realignment. Where the Five speaks of imbalance and emotional depletion, the Six arrives with the promise that healing is available, but only if we are willing to take the first step toward connection. This doesn't mean reopening doors that were closed for good reason. Rather, it's about releasing the weight of unfinished emotion, and sometimes, offering closure to yourself through compassion and presence. Now may be the right moment to reach out, not to fix the past, but to release it. A simple message. A soft check-in. Or perhaps a letter written but never sent, just to give form to what's lived in your chest for too long. There's quiet power in expressing something with no expectation of return. Because in truth, expression is release. And release is freedom. You don't need grand gestures. Even small rituals can shift energy. Imagine spraying a scent that once brought you peace, a favorite perfume or calming essence, over your collarbones and heart space in the morning. Let it be a sensory invitation to step into softness. Let it carry with it the intention of reconciliation, of ease, of re-entering the world with an open chest. The simplest actions, done with clarity and presence, can be more transformative than we realize. In the quiet teachings of mindfulness, there is the idea that when we forgive, not just others but ourselves, we are not erasing the wound, but removing the dagger. Pain may still be there, but now, it can heal. You are allowed to release your grip on old stories. You are allowed to stop proving your pain. You are allowed to remember someone with love and still choose to move forward. If your heart has been waiting for a signal to soften, consider this it. Not because someone else deserves it, but because you do. You deserve to live without the echo of regret rattling inside you. You deserve to offer kindness where before there was only silence. And you deserve to be met, whether by another, or simply by your own inner peace. So if you've been feeling the nudge to reconnect, or even just to release, follow it. Comment below if it resonates with you. Say it out loud, I'm ready to open my heart. Not for anyone else, but for the you who has waited long enough. This is the beginning of your return, not to the past, but to wholeness. As we move gently from the emotional terrain of relationships into the quiet realm of self-care, a different kind of truth begins to emerge. One that doesn't ask for grand gestures, but for a return to the simplest, most vital connection you have, the one with your own body. The energy of Mars at this time is intense and restless, stirring not only physical symptoms like fatigue, irritability, or disrupted sleep, but also that subtle inner heat, the kind that builds up when your system is trying to process more than it's designed to hold. You may find yourself more reactive lately, quicker to frustration, or more sensitive to things that would normally pass unnoticed. These are not weaknesses. They are signals. Much like a flame that flickers wildly when the air becomes unstable, your body is reacting to energetic fluctuations, cosmic, environmental, emotional. And instead of resisting them, this is your invitation to respond with presence. Not with control, but with care. The ancient teachings remind us that when the mind is agitated, the breath becomes shallow, the body contracts, and clarity fades. But when you slow the breath, even just for a moment, you begin to soften the internal climate. You are no longer a prisoner of restlessness, you become the gentle observer of it. That shift alone can change everything. Now more than ever, small acts of consistency can be profound. Reducing sugar, adding potassium-rich foods like bananas or leafy greens, and incorporating omega-3s are not just nutritional tips. They are ways of calming the body's fire, of nourishing the nervous system so it can return to balance. These changes may seem simple, but simplicity is not weakness. Simplicity is wisdom in action. And then there is rest. Deep, intentional rest, not the kind that comes after collapsing from exhaustion, but the kind you choose. Sleep is not a luxury. It is where repair begins. When you commit to winding down before 10:30 p.m., dimming your screens, and offering yourself a few minutes of gentle breath or quiet music, you are not being indulgent, you are building resilience. You are choosing to come home to yourself before the world demands you again. Physical movement also plays its part, not as punishment, but as renewal. A brisk walk in the morning light, 10 minutes of stretching, or simply placing your feet on the earth. These actions root you back into the rhythm of nature. They remind your body that it is safe, that it belongs, and that it's allowed to let go. You may have noticed patterns, repeating numbers like 111, 222, or 777, catching your eye throughout the day. These are not coincidences. They are gentle nudges, asking you to pay attention, to wake up from the autopilot you may have been running on. They are reminders that you don't need to fix everything all at once. You just need to listen. When you treat your body like a sacred companion, not something to conquer, but something to honor, everything begins to shift. The irritability fades. The fatigue lessens. The inner space grows quieter. And in that quiet, something beautiful returns. Your clarity, your joy, your ability to choose how you want to meet the world. Let this be a soft turning point. Not a dramatic overhaul, but a series of small, loving decisions. Drink water before coffee. Stretch before scrolling. Rest before burnout. Not because you're broken, but because you're finally remembering that peace isn't something you chase. It's something you allow when you stop running. You don't have to earn your right to feel better. You only need to pause, breathe, and listen to what your body has been trying to say all along. It knows the way back. It always has. What begins to unfold here is not about reclaiming what was lost, but about finally seeing that loss was never the end, it was a clearing. A quiet dismantling of the things that could no longer hold the weight of who you were becoming. And as you've moved through this reading, through cosmic alignments, financial shifts, emotional healing, and physical recalibration, something within you has already begun to soften. To loosen its grip. To make space. There's a natural rhythm to all things. Trees shed their leaves not because they've failed to grow, but because they know the weight of holding on too long would only cost them spring. In the same way, the disappointments and unravelings you've experienced recently have not come to punish you, Leo. They've come to prepare you. You weren't being broken. You were being readied. And now, you stand at the threshold of something not just new, but truer. There's a difference between rebuilding from fear and rebuilding from wisdom. The first clings to what was, tries to recreate it, and ends up in a cycle of resistance. The second pauses, reflects, breathes, and begins again, not from urgency, but from alignment. You are being asked now to rebuild with intention. Not for applause, not for validation, but for the quiet joy of living in integrity with yourself. What you create from that space will last. Because it's not built from the hunger of not enough, but from the knowing that you've always been enough. The full moon on May 23rd illuminates this beautifully. Full moons are mirrors. They reveal what's ready to be seen, and in this case, what's ready to be released. But release doesn't always mean letting go of a person or a plan. It can also mean letting go of an identity, an expectation, a pattern you've outgrown. There's power in choosing to end a chapter with grace. There's wisdom in knowing that endings aren't failures, they're beginnings in disguise. If you found yourself clinging to the memory of a dream that didn't unfold, ask yourself, did it really die, or has it simply evolved? Sometimes the dream doesn't disappear, it just takes a form your past self couldn't yet imagine. Now, with more clarity, more grounding, and more compassion for who you've become, you're able to build something that isn't just big, it's sustainable. It fits. You might feel a quiet nudge to meditate, to sit with your breath, to create even a small moment of stillness today. Not to escape your life, but to meet it. To hear, in the silence, the truth you already know, you are allowed to begin again. And not as the person you were before things fell apart, but as someone wiser, kinder, more attuned to what really matters. Repeat it with me gently, I forgive. I release. I choose freedom. Not because everything is resolved, but because you're done carrying what was never meant to be yours forever. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's no longer allowing the past to dictate your capacity for joy. And freedom? It's not found in escape, it's found in presence. So if you feel even the smallest opening in your heart right now, a softening, a deep exhale, a quiet yes, know that this is your moment. This is your turning point. And you don't need a master plan to move forward. You just need to be willing. Leave a comment if that shift is real for you. Say, I'm ready to rebuild with a stronger heart. Not to prove anything, but to honor everything you've already walked through. Because from here, Leo, your light won't just return, it will rise from a foundation that's finally strong enough to carry it. If you're still here with me, Leo, it's because something in your heart is no longer satisfied with merely surviving. You're not just seeking predictions or fleeting affirmations, you're seeking truth, alignment, and the kind of inner power that doesn't come from the outside world, but from remembering who you are underneath it all. And I want to remind you gently but firmly, that fire within you was never meant to burn quietly in a corner. It was meant to illuminate your path, and perhaps even light the way for others. What you've just experienced in this reading isn't about fixing anything, it's about finally seeing that nothing inside you was broken to begin with. The moments of loss, the waiting, the quiet rebuilding, they weren't setbacks. They were initiations. Every tear you've shed in silence, every time you chose peace over proving your worth, every breath you took when it would have been easier to give up, all of it has brought you here. And now, what you do next, how you respond to this awakening, is entirely up to you. Are you willing to believe that your story doesn't have to repeat? That just because something was difficult doesn't mean it has to stay that way? Can you allow the version of yourself you're becoming to be different from the one you had to be just to survive? Let yourself reflect for a moment. What would change if you truly trusted that everything you need is already within you? What if you let go of the need to be understood, and instead chose to understand yourself more deeply? What if you stopped waiting for a sign, and realized that this video, this moment, this breath, is the sign? You don't have to figure it all out right now. Just choose one thing you're willing to shift. One habit you'll release. One belief you'll replace with something kinder. Let that be the beginning of your next chapter. And as you do, know that I'm here, this channel, this space, this energy, holding a mirror to the brightest parts of you, even when you forget how to see them. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What angel number has been showing up in your life lately? 111, reminding you that new beginnings are near? For 44, whispering that you are supported and safe? Or maybe 888, telling you abundance is closer than you think? Drop it in the comments below, not just for you, but for everyone else silently walking beside you, needing that same reminder. And if something in today's message touched your heart, even just a little, please support this space by liking the video, subscribing to Eternal Mindfulness, and turning on the notification bell so you never miss another moment like this. This is how we keep the circle strong, how we keep growing together. Let today be the day you remember, the fire in you is not just warmth. It's purpose. It's passion. It's direction. So keep going, radiant soul. Keep showing up. The world needs your light, especially now.